It seems like every single time I start a new Minecraft world, there's a few builds that are absolutely necessary. I of course have my starter base, my starter barn, a castle obviously, and I just recently built up a farming village. Funny enough, that's the exact order of builds I had in my first series, which is a great way of showing the progress I've made as a builder. With that being said, every single world needs an iron farm. So today I'm creating my starter iron farm, which just so happens to be a small part of one of the best creations I've ever made. Instead of working on anything new, I actually want to finish where I left off last episode, which is of course in the farming village that I got a little burnt out from last episode, so I didn't quite complete it. So right now I want to finish the rest of the build, first by adding in small trees to break up from the crop fields and to give the area some more life, bringing in a few pale oak birch trees and some smaller oak trees. Then building up a massive oak tree by this potato field because I love trees, and I'm not quite done because I love trees, and there's no better way of adding trees in the world than creating a custom forest. So after filling in this space with some coarse dirt for a forest floor, I added in some leaves and started building up some tall oak trees to break up from the boring hill that was here at the base of the mountain. Now I have a decent amount of this forest built up, and the next thing I would get started on is putting some short grass and some ferns in here, just everywhere I possibly can. Something I noticed when I look at pictures of forests is there's not a ton of actual grass, so I put a lot of coarse dirt in here. Also, when making custom forests, there's these darker areas like this, and then there's an area like right here that is completely covered in light from where the sun is directly hitting it, and I think these areas are just absolutely amazing. Eventually I want to create a forest that has areas like this, maybe with some flowers in it or something. I know I don't have a ton of options for flowers, but I'll just grab some of these and I guess some dandelions. Don't want to embarrass myself trying to pronounce this flower. I give up on it, okay? And now I have to find back where that spot was. I think about right here. I think having a little patch of flowers would look pretty nice, just where there is a little bit more sunlight. I also have really enjoyed putting in some dead bushes around as well. And now we get a good look at that. It is looking much better. The last thing I have here that I want to add is some ferns because they just have a different texture. Something about the fern just looks a little bit more wild compared to the actual grass. And you know what? The last thing there, I'm just going to add some more dandelions. So this needs to be a pop of color in here somewhere. But I am extremely happy with the way that the forest floor looks over here. And like I said, I want to make a custom forest somewhere eventually. I think that's going to be such a fun little, I guess, project to work on. Now, with the final look at this area, there is still a lot more room where I could be building. Now, I want to extend the forest over here a little bit by adding some more custom trees. And I also have this area where you can see there's a little bit of a hole. I have a kind of shrine just over here. It's kind of based on the castle that I have. And for this, I'm going to need some stone blocks and a little bit of diorite. Getting a break from custom trees, I wanted to instead fill in the space between my custom trees with a shrine to the gods. This one being very inspired by Seps from Game of Thrones, and it ties back into the lore I made with the Whitestone Castle a couple episodes ago. Up here at the top, I wanted to use the lodestone to act as a border around the top of the shrine. And there's a creeper. Hello, my friend. How are you doing? With the border around, I also wanted to use some pale oak signs to border it off even more. I'm not going for the circle, but I'm kind of just going for the texture in general for the outside, as I like the color that it has. Looking at it from down here, I do like it. It gives off a very subtle effect here on the outside. But on the inside, you can see the full lodestone texture. I'm so glad that they made it a little bit cheaper. Also, I don't know, I feel like I'm like, what is happening with my character? I don't like that. I just saw Flip use something similar to this, and NC released his mod pack, and I'm trying it out. I'm trying the animations out, but it's a little weird. I'm also looking for some deep slate, and there is some deep slate in here. And I grabbed all of the materials I need, so this should be all I need to complete the roof of the shrine. Now with the roof in, it's looking extremely good, and this is supposed to look very similar to the castle as I mentioned before, to kind of connect these two areas together. And I just really appreciate the vibe here with the rock path going up to here. I kind of cooked pretty hard when I created this, and especially with the forest surrounding it, the vibes through here are very good. Minus the floating tree. It's okay, it doesn't need roots or anything, it's fine. In here, I wanted to actually add in some individual shrines. So I want to put a sword right here, and I can do that just doing something very simple to create a sword. Over here, I wanted to create kind of a shrine for a tree, so I'm gonna put a tree kind of hanging from the wall right there using the lever. Over here, I want to do the same thing with a brewing stand, and then I want to grab some mangrove fences and granite walls, and I want to place them 2 blocks, and then the granite wall on top with actually 4 candles up there to look like a staff, maybe for a little bit of magic. So you have the 4 pillars of a not very well thought out religion in this world. You know, you have the sword for like a warrior aspect, you have the like tree for life, you have this for like medicine, and then this for magic. And I think that's a pretty cool idea. And I look like I'm skipping. I'm having a good time. My legs are inside of me. What is happening? I don't like it. Anyways, I think that's pretty nice in there, and I'm happy with the way that this area has turned out. But for more important things, I removed the animation mod, and I'm feeling much better about myself. I don't have limbs falling off, you know. That dude before needed some like WD-40 or something. He was squeaking around. Anyways, speaking of squeaking around, I need to make a house. I actually don't know what connection I was trying to make there, but this is supposed to connect back into the village, and that I wanted to make a woodcutter's lodge to create lore around how people in this area would cut down their trees and use them for building and fire for the winter, which means of course making a small cart for the wood and a place for them to actually chop the wood down. Oh, and more trees because I love tree, and there wouldn't really be a woodcutter's lodge if there wasn't wood to actually cut. So I added in even more custom forest. I added in this small wood choppers kind of house right here with a workstation over on the left side. We have a wagon holding some lumber and some stumps to make it look like they chopped down some trees, maybe to build some houses over here. If you're wondering why my voice sounds like this, it's because I just celebrated my 21st birthday, and it was, you know, it's not great right now. It's not great. Since it is my 21st birthday, or at least it was yesterday, I do want to bake myself a cake. I am going to need 3 buckets of milk. I need a couple pieces of wheat and some eggs, which there actually are a decent amount of eggs in here. Oh, back in the house, I can just craft up a cake. And I forgot I need 3 pieces of wheat, not 2. Now, I can make myself a birthday cake. And I actually think there's a feature in this game where you can put a candle in it, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's a feature, I don't know. So, let me just put this cake down, and... oh, you can put a candle in it. Oh, let me light the candle. Oh, that's great. I love that. Celebrating with the only people I have in this world. Well, this is a moment. Well, I guess I wasn't expecting to eat the candle, but okay. Anyways, and yeah, well, let's just get on with the rest of the video. I have a lot to do today, so I'm putting my birthday aside and I'm diving into the caves to put in some work, as I have thousands of deep slate blocks to collect. You can also turn this happy-go-lucky music off. There's nothing to celebrate in my life. I'm just joking. Life is worth celebrating, and so is deep slate and tough, as they're both amazing blocks to work with, and I'll be using them a ton today to terraform and create the build for the iron farm. So I spent just a few hours down in the caves. I then went back up to the surface to collect up some gray wool to go alongside the tough and deep slate. I then went back home to the starter house to collect materials I already had laying around from previous builds. And now I want to take a trip across the sea to go to the other continent, as it's very resource rich and has a lot of the building blocks I need. But I had to take in the fresh air for a second because I got mining fatigue from a mysterious sea temple. After that went away, I collected red and yellow terracotta and then some regular terracotta that I was going to dye and use later for a building block. After collecting terracotta for a bit, I went to the nearest forest azalea tree to collect rooted dirt that I was going to use to connect the build today to my starter house. On my way home, I stopped by the local jungle for logs that I want to use as a sort of mud block, and then I collected some coral from a nearby reef. I then set on the long journey back home, where I had a few materials left, like dripstone, which isn't a block I use a lot, but is definitely another great terraforming block that I'm going to put to use today. Now it's time to collect the main block for the build, which is this oily and evil black stone located in hell. I first went to this nearby bastion to get the cracked brick and normal brick variants, and then spent 6, maybe 7 minutes at least collecting the black stone from a basalt delta that was close by. Where now I have a ton of the blackstone acquired, but I need about 37 stacks of blackstone walls. But after many hours of collecting, I have all of the blackstone I need to complete this build. Going into the cave last episode, I'm definitely going to need a bit of packed mud, so I can use this for a path later on to connect the starter house to the build. I also need a bit of mossy cobblestone, so I'm going to hop into this cave and collect up a little bit of moss. Now I have created another giant chest monster right over here, filled up with a ton of deep slate, mud. We got colorful terracotta blocks. I mean, we have maybe every block in the game right here for today's project. There is just one thing that I do need a ton of that it's going to be a little bit of a process. I need some red candles that I want to use for something pretty special later on in the build. And what I need is in here. It is honeycomb, because I need to make a ton of candles. Thankfully, this farm has been working in the background. But I need a ton of string, and I have no access to string in this world. This is definitely not the most efficient way of doing this, but if I use chunk space and find a spider spawner, people are gonna call me a cheater and unsubscribe. But you know, it would totally save me hours of just running around. But you know what? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, one entire night of string collecting later, and I got just over a stack. But we can make a few candles from that. And then I can grab some of the red dye and turn them all into red candles. It's just a little small dent into the candle farming that I need to do for the rest of the episode, but I'm just going to have to collect the string over time. It's going to take a while. You know what's also going to take a while? Chopping down yet another forest of birch and oak trees to clear out a space to build, which is an obstacle I seem to run in every single time I want to build in this world. What doesn't take a while though is clicking the like button and maybe subscribing. Each video takes time, and the more support you guys show the videos, the more time I have to spend on them, which hopefully improves the quality and keeps them coming out every couple weeks. I even spent the time to remove all of the leaf litter from the area, as it interrupts the schematic and is seriously so annoying. I love the block, but it needs to go. What also needs to go is the side of this hill, because it extends out a little bit too far into the valley, which blocks right where I want to put a path to make the space walkable. The land is now pushed back a little bit over in this way, and of course the forest is removed. And I even went through the painful process of removing all of the leaf litter to help me with the schematic. Feels like every single build I've done in this series has required me to remove a forest and also do a few hours of terraforming, but I guess that's what I signed up for. Right now though, I want to begin building, and I have the idea of completely transforming this entire landscape using the deep slate and tuff that I have up there and creating a cliffside in this entire region. So I want to grab some cobbled deep slate tiles, some blackstone, cyan terracotta, and a little bit of cobblestone and andesite for some highlights. I didn't really have any direct inspiration images for these custom cliffs, but I did have images in my mind of Sam and Frodo on their long journey to Mordor, which is kind of where I got the idea for using the darker blocks like blackstone, deep slate, and tuff for terraforming. As I opened up Axiom one day and kind of just experimented a bit with some shapes and block palettes to match the vibe I was going for, and I'm very happy with the end result. I finished building the cliffs along the left side of the mountain and then continued with that same idea on the right side, connecting it back to the auto-generated terrain. To connect this build to the rest of the world, I created a path along the cliffside because just like every other content creator, I eventually want to connect all of my builds together. I also did a little bit of custom terraforming work using muddy mangrove roots and jungle wood, and I just continued this going through the valley until it ended up at the end of the custom terrain. Taking a step back, we can look at all of the work I've put in to transforming the valley so far. An area that was once forest is almost an area where I can start building. Now, before I fill in the cliffs, I did want to create a way up to the new custom terrain, and what would fit the vibe better than a bridge to connect back to the other side. Using a similar block palette as the cliffs, I created support for the bridge and built it up to match the height of the cliffs. Going up even further, I want to create the actual railing for the top of the bridge. So along these pillars, I want to extend them even more, just a little bit, and then I want to extend a black stone wall with a black stained glass pane along that side. So I'm going to put another wall here with even more glass going around the side to round it up here towards the top. And I want to extend it up even more with some black stone walls. The arch of the bridge has been created and I think it's looking so good. The black stained glass doesn't look great from this angle, but it's kind of used to just round it out a little bit more. So what I want to do now is extend this along the other side and mirror it, and of course create even more pillars to create a bridge that connects to the cliffside. For the bridge, I wanted to go for something that had a ton of smaller arches, as I think that just creates a more interesting overall shape, and I wanted to create a sense of mystery around the build, so I made the bridge very ruined towards the end, as if it extended across the entire region at some point. I'm very much using the whole philosophy I see in Elden Ring, with structures that clearly have a story, but it was lost with time, and this bridge just kinda goes along with that. Now I have the top of the bridge complete, and it is good to walk across. Around the back, I made it look a little bit more ruined, as I didn't really want to extend the bridge all the way over there, and I wanted it to end, so I decided to make it kind of crumbling here towards the back, as if maybe the land took it, maybe it wasn't used for a while, and I like that it even kind of comes here from the landscape. Again, like this is such an ancient place that even the land kind of took it. I especially love coming through here and seeing the bridge across the valley that it's created. Now, I don't know how these guys did it, but they made it all the way down there. I don't know what they're looking for. Don't know what they're looking for at all. I guess they think I'm down there. Don't know why I would be. But right now, my focus is going to be, again, back on the cliffs, as I need to extend them back behind where the bridge is. Now that I have the bridge finished, it's made it very obvious that I need to finish terraforming, so I finally finished the cliffs. Count how many times I said cliff so far this episode, and also look at the new addition to the build. I am finally ready to begin working on the main structure, which of course needs an area big enough for me to build it on. So I'm filling in the custom terrain with similar blocks I've been using, which will act as a floor for the tower I'm going to be creating. This doesn't really look like much, but this should give you the sense of scale of how big the actual structure I'm building is going to be. Now, I did hollow out the schematic, so these places that are empty are places of interest or certain structures that'll be in here. Like this one is going to be a spiral staircase that goes all the way around here. But what I want to do instead of getting started on the tower is I want to fill in the landscape over and through here. And what I want to do is make it look dead. As you can kind of see, the black stone and deep slate is kind of slowly getting desaturated into the coral and mossy cobblestone up here. So to continue this look, I want to grab more deep slate, coarse dirt, granite, packed mud, and rooted dirt. And I also want to grab a little bit more of the mossy cobblestone that I have, and some dead fire coral, and I want to grab some regular dirt. Like I said earlier, I want this area to be desaturated, but I want to make it look like there was grass here that just slowly died. In these patches, what I've been doing is I'm actually using some of the path block, and I'm putting them in here to make it look like it's a kind of dead grass. Now, the only thing is, you can kind of see through it. I don't like that. But so far in these small patches, you can see it looks as if the landscape is slowly dying, which is exactly the vibe I want to go for, as I want this area to be a little bit more sinister and maybe like evil, and that would make it so that there's really no grass up here. And this space has exactly the vibe that I'm going for, something that, of course, like I said, is dead, and I've added in the grass. Not really grass, but dead kind of grass all over the place. Now, this is kind of plain. I don't think it looks the greatest how it is right now, but I can get some of the stuff I have right here in my inventory, which is just some firefly bushes. And I'm going to first create small patches of the firefly bushes to look like some dead grass. And then what I can do is also bring in some of the dead bushes in between them with some tall dry grass as well. And I also wanted to actually add in some grass to add a little bit of greenery, but not too much of it. And I think this is looking pretty good. I could probably go with a little bit less of the grass, but I think if I add it in patches, it'll look very nice. Minecraft has been coming out with some new, small, and to be quite honest, boring updates for a while, but I will never talk down on the addition of the firefly bush and dry grass, as they have quickly become some of my favorite additions to any build I'm working on. I mean, just look how good it makes this area look. I couldn't imagine what this area would look like without it. Finally, moving on from terraforming, I'm ready to begin working on the main tower, which is going to start with me creating a bunch of smaller pillars. And again, for these pillars, I am going to use the gray stained glass that I have to make them slightly bigger on the edges. So the wall actually becomes almost like a slab here along the edge. And then I am continuing to go up with the deep slate and blackstone with the deep slate bricks towards the inside. I never thought I would use gray wool and gray concrete along with deep slate, but it actually goes together really well. Using the blackstone, deep slate, and gray wool, I continued building up the pillars to start the tower. I want the tower to have multiple layers, each one going up with different shaped arches, so the entire structure is going to be pretty tall. I've now worked up with all of the pillars, and I just want to hop down because I need a few more blocks. This episode's really making me want to go and get an elytra. I think that's what I'm going to do next episode, as getting up and down from here really is kind of a pain. Literally, because I don't make every single water bucket, believe it or not. But I have been smelting up some iron over here that I got when I was getting the deep slate and tuff earlier, and I want to make some cauldrons. I need about 38, which is actually a lot of iron. I can make 36, but I also need to grab some more iron in order to make some chains as well, which I'm also gonna need a little bit more iron for that. But I also wanted to craft down some more candles, which I still don't really have enough of. I want to connect these two pillars, and I'm gonna do that using some blackstone stairs facing downwards and some blackstone walls, connecting up here at the midpoint, where up here at the top, I am just going to create the wall facing downwards like that. And then I want to also put some candles on top of the walls just to give it a little bit of extra detail. Ooh, the farming village looks so good up here. I can see an outpost from all the way over here. Dude, my eyesight is so good. I also want to put some black stained glass going from down here if I can connect it, and I want to add some chains above it, I think going about 4 blocks tall. And then I want to add a black candle on top of that. Now, the black stained glass is kind of just used to connect it back to the build, but I wanted to create some more spikes on like this part of the arch right here. I also wanted to do the same thing along this side as well. It's a very slight detail here, but I like the way it looks. Along the back side, I want to create an arch shape using some different types of blackstone. So up here at the top, I'm going to use some blackstone bricks. And I want to continue using deep slate here along the right side. And of course, mixing in some of the gray wool. But what I want to do now is grab the slabs and stairs to create that arch that I was talking about. This one, if I can fly down here a little bit, I want to make it an upside down stair. There we go. I'm now creating a bit more of the structure. This time I'm adding in some windows. So I am just going to continue this a little bit. And then I want to add in that outline using the blackstone wall. And so I have continued it going all the way up as far as I want to. And now this is where I want to add in the cauldrons that I crafted a little bit ago. And the color mixes perfectly in with the deep slate and blackstone, except it gives us a little bit of an arch because of the bottom of the cauldron. This doesn't really look like it would actually make a difference, but if I go on and fly a little bit far away, you can see that it actually does. It creates a very nice subtle window shape that even from a distance you can tell is there. It honestly is a very underutilized block. Just a little bit of a build hack I figured I would show off here. Now that I've got some of those details established, I'm pretty much just going to create a giant circle of those details to create the shape for the tower, but making some parts slightly ruined to save on materials. I mean, to add a bit of the mystery element that I was talking about earlier with the bridge. I haven't established a set lore for this at all. I just got a little carried away with my imagination, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it was just from a long time ago in the world where there was a battle against some dark entity, and this was just a pillar that was left from the battle, and it just got slowly washed away with time, leaving this tower, which by the way looks so cool from the farming village and really is just giving Elden Ring. What I want to do is, like I said earlier, and create a spiral staircase, but there will be a pretty big statue here in the middle. To really get the shape I want for the statue, I need to use a lot of different types of stairs, slabs, and walls. But first I want to create a large plinth for the statue. If you don't know what that means, it's just a pedestal. I looked it up on Google. But it's just meant to create a large enough space for the statue to sit on. For the statue itself, I really wasn't inspired by any actual statues, but instead took the idea of the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings and searched up some dark fantasy cloaked figures from Pinterest and tried my best to recreate what I saw. This really took a lot of time to perfect the shape in a creative world, which requires a lot of slabs, stairs, walls, and stained glass to manipulate the structure and get something that resembles a human or being of some sort. Now the statue is not yet finished. I want to make the sword right here, but I'm going to need some tough walls, and I'm going to need the deep slate tile slab I have in this bundle, and I need some gray glass, as well as some stone slabs and some stone brick slabs that I'm going to craft up. And I want to use some stone brick walls to put the sword right here where his hands meet. And this will kind of just contrast with the deep slate and black stone that I already have in place, so it's a little bit more visible. And up here, I want to create the handle for the sword, so I'm going to use a chiseled tuff. So I'm going to need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 tough walls, and then I'm going to grab that deep slate tile slab here for the edge of the handle. And now the sword is kind of just a straight line here, so I'm going to also have to make the edges here. I don't know what these are exactly called, but I'm just going to use the stone brick slabs and stone slabs that I created, so it kind of fits perfectly in here. So now if I look at it from here, it kind of looks like a sword, but not quite. I think it's just a little bit too thin, so I want to grab some gray stained glass, and I want to make this slightly thicker. Now I want to retain the sword shape, so I'm not going to do it on the bottom one, but instead I'm going to go 1 block up and continue going up with some gray stained glass to extend the wall out just slightly. So I'm going to extend this all the way up to where the handle is, just like that, and we can get a better look at it now from a distance. I think that is looking so much better. It actually creates the shape of the sword. I also put that one in the middle, so it creates a line in the sword, which I think looks amazing as well. And again, the bottom of it creates the kind of a sharp point. So I think that's looking amazing for the statue. Now, before I add any redstone to the statue, I want to create the spiral staircase that'll lead up towards the back of the statue, so there's going to be a staircase kind of going around. I know I mentioned something about redstone in the statue, and that's because I want the statue to store the iron that comes from the iron farm, and I have some cool plans for that. But right now I'm creating the spiral staircase I've mentioned multiple times, and I'm wrapping that around the statue I just created. I also took the time to add in some areas that are meant to be some of the structure that have crumbled to the ground, and I went around the side of the build to create a small bridge, and I might have gotten a little carried away building another circular wall surrounding the tower that is far more ruined. I have pretty much finished the main structure portion of the build. I added in these ruined walls around here as if maybe there was a bigger structure here long ago, and it just added a little bit more interest instead of there just being one giant tower. Also, to give it a little bit more interest over here as well, I added in a bridge which maybe led into another tower or part that will be over here. And eventually I could maybe add in another ruined bridge that's right here that could lead into maybe like a mountain or something, but I do have a plan to put something in here. So let me put that door back and grab some of the redstone that I have. Let me grab the comparator repeater and pistons that I have, as well as a redstone torch. Now my plan up there is to, of course, create the iron farm. I want to create the storage system right here. Now I want to create a very simple redstone door just using a redstone torch and a repeater with some redstone dust that'll go under here. Now, all I really need to do, I think, is place a block here with another piece of redstone dust that should be on. So I'm going to put some blackstone bricks, and then I want to place the pistons like this. Now, all I need is a blackstone pressure plate. So if I go on here and place the pressure plate there, it's a pretty secretive entrance. And I can just hop on there, and we have a way in. And if I put another one along this side, then the door will not close while I'm in here. I also want to create a small storage system for the iron that will eventually go in. So I can place a hopper, I think, going into that one, and then another chest here at the bottom. And then I want a hopper system that'll go up through the ceiling, or I guess the statue. So up here at the top, I'm just going to place a ton of hoppers. This probably is not the most resource efficient. And then in order to cover this up, I can actually just use some slabs. So if I grab some polished blackstone slabs, I can kind of just round off the top of the head. Now all I have left to do in this space is add in the actual iron farm. And I haven't really prepared myself to do this. So let me grab some wood and make a few boats, as I'm going to need to transport some villagers, and of course boats are just the easiest way to do that. If this village doesn't have the villagers I need, there is also another village past the castle. So I've actually been searching through the village. I don't think there's any villagers alive. I think the only villagers alive in this village are the ones that I put into a cave. Isn't it just sad in this game that if you don't have a connection with a village, they just all die out slowly? Isn't that just sad? So I'm gonna have to make the long journey over to past the castle. Over in this direction, there is a village, and I'm just gonna have to steal their population a little bit. Well, I've been here for half a second, and it seems as if this village population is, I guess, technically, I guess they have it figured out. They're alive, which the other village didn't accomplish, but they seem to have a way of just getting stuck. But, I mean, they have everything they need. They have protection. They have a food source. I don't know what that pig's doing to that guy. It's beyond my comprehension, I think. I just need to put these guys in boats, and he's very excited to hop in this boat. I guess we're grabbing a pig too. Everybody's invited. Gonna attach him to the happy gas. Oh my god. Or at least let me grab one more, because I'm just gonna already kind of expect that I'm gonna lose somebody. Oh no. Well, it seems one of their children died. No! Oh, this is a disaster. There you go. There we go. Now they're all attached to that guy. This guy is back on there. Let me take a nice quick rest, and then I'm gonna be on my way. Mad science. No, don't run away. I'm afraid if I unlead, he's just gonna run away with the villagers. It's gonna be like a little kidnapping. Come back! Okay. Got everybody? Oh, that guy. You got left behind. I'm sorry. You're better off there. Okay? He's like, where did my friends go? Trust me, he's better off in the village. He's not better off with these guys. This little group of scoundrels that I have in my Yep, exactly. I'm heading my way back home, and I'm now kind of realizing just how traumatic that experience probably was for the rest of the village. I mean, this random outsider comes in and with a big blob with some goggles on and just steals an entire population of villagers and their food source. And not to mention, the Iron Golem killed one of their zombie children. And I have made my way over to the tower, and this guy's kind of wandering around with my villagers and my pig. And now my goal is to create the iron farm and then transport the villagers and a zombie up there. So I'm going to need a little bit of redstone, some water, and I'm going to need some building blocks. I have created a little platform, and right now I need to create a little bit of redstone in order to have this iron farm function. So I just need 4 repeaters, some redstone dust, I think a redstone torch right here, a piston for the zombie, and then a redstone dust to connect it all around. So it'll be kind of like a long redstone clock to get the zombie to attack the villagers, I guess, and spawn an iron golem. Now I just need to create the platform for the villagers to stand on with 3 beds and then 3 workstation blocks. And so they can't escape, I'm going to surround it with some glass. And we can also see what's going on in here, just in case anything weird happens. So I have created a small box for the villagers to stay in, and of course the zombie will show up here every once in a while and spook them and then spawn an iron golem. But I need to get the villagers all the way up here. I'm assuming he dropped the villagers off the cliff, which is not fun. My leads are gonna despawn. Well, I found them, but the leads despawned. Or I guess I have the leads in my inventory. I don't know what's going on, but I need to grab these guys and get them back on the happy ghast somehow. You've never felt pure frustration until you've tried to touch a happy ghast. Wait a second. I have to make a wooden shovel because I have silk touch, but I have a snowball. And now I just need to take these guys up there. I don't think I can fit through any of these windows, so I think I'm gonna have to go all the way over and down. I haven't really thought about how I'm supposed to get these villagers off. I don't have any shears on me, so this might be a problem. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do now that I have the villagers up here. No! He's running away with them. Come back down, please. Come back down. He got him in there? Okay. I want to get the bottom one out first, and then these guys in. Okay, that actually worked pretty well. What a genius. No! Anyways, after that, we have the villagers in here, and it's actually turning night, so I can get the zombie in here as well if I want to, which is actually the next step. So I need to walk around with my balloon and find a zombie that will pick up an item. Okay, well, for some reason, hitting the zombie made him pick up the item, so now I just need to put him in a boat, and now he's running away with my zombie. This, again, was a pain, but I now have the zombie acquired, and now I have to get the zombie in the landing zone. No! After killing my good friend, I may or may not have gone through a few more of them before finding Zombie Al-Gaib that I created a safety box for, and then he just went into the space on his own. I finished creating the iron farm, and now it's just time to create a giant red orb. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but this entire build is inspired by a reference image I found on Pinterest, and this orb was just a feature from that image. So I used glazed terracotta, concrete, and glass to get the color and texture I wanted. The red terracotta really does fit very well with the magical orb theme, and of course I spammed buttons around to stop iron golems from spawning in it, which looks fantastic. I looked up if iron golems could spawn on glass, and they said that they can. It was the AI response on Google, so I don't know if they actually do. So what I've done is I've placed a couple auto crafters, which will take the iron from the iron golems and will turn them into iron blocks, which will then dispense out down here. First thing I have to do though is remove this temporary block, and then I just need to place the redstone torch in. So now this little orb that I made, not very little orb that I made, should be completely finished. There's an iron farm in there. The zombie, I hope, does not die. And it should, again, automatically filter the iron and drop it from where that is onto the head of the statue. Now, I could check this. There should be things dropped in here. And there is some iron nuggets somehow in there. I don't know how, but there isn't a block of iron in there, which is exactly what I want. We'll see if this continues to actually work, though. And we also have poppies in the system. I honestly did not think about that. Okay, I didn't really think too much about the actual poppies going in the system, so I think what I'm gonna have to do for now is just break the auto crafting system that I made. But the iron farm is working. We have 4 blocks of iron in here, and I'm just going to make them all into iron ingots for now. But this thing should still dispense iron down into the statue. And with this guy dying, we can actually see it in action right here. So sadly, this guy has to die, and then it should pop out from right here. And that is perfect. And then with the hoppers, it'll just go into the statue. And then now we have 54 iron. If I wasn't doing redstone, I'm sure this would be much better, but it's just me doing redstone. It looks pretty bad, but, you know, I'm a genius, okay? I'm a genius. Now, this is an orb, and I want it to be glowing. So what I want to do is put the red candles to use and create kind of little streaks of maybe like a magic kind of around it, and I can light some of them to create a little bit of a glow up there as well, which might mob-proof it and also make it a little bit better. It's not much, but I think it is a very nice and subtle detail to add in some of the candles. Now what I want to do is add some trees. To make this area have a more unique vibe to it, I want to use some yellow glazed terracotta and some normal yellow terracotta to make some aspen trees. I also have some yellow stained glass and some yellow wool. I also want to make some orange trees, so I have some orange wool in here and some pumpkins as well. And really the last thing I'm going to need for these trees is some copper grates, which I can go ahead and craft some of them up. This build stands out a lot, and funny enough, that's really the only thing I am unsure about, as the location is very near my starter base and it just looks like a sore thumb. So just like a band-aid, I'm planting some trees to connect the build back into the environment. This time I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and create some colored trees. Since I started this world, I've really been excited to build large custom forests, and I think it would be a very cool challenge to create an area of the world that has almost a fall theme to it. And with it turning October, these orange and yellow trees fit the vibe perfectly, and I think it's just a great way of giving this space its own personality. I also want to mention now that the statue schematic will be available for members and patrons of the channel, as well as the custom trees I used for today's episode. I was never the biggest fan of using like unconventional leaf blocks to create colored trees, but it's something that I've been experimenting a little bit more with, and if you're looking at it from a distance, you can't really tell the difference between the traditional leaf block and just some like glazed terracotta. Now I also created some dead trees as well, and I added in, of course, the pale leaves to make them look like they're getting more dead as they are getting closer to this very evil place. I also put a fallen over tree again because these are very common in nature and they just look really cool in the game. But I also have some pale oak leaves left over that I want to use as a little bit of foliage, but it's still pretty dead. I also have a ton of coral blocks that I'm going to use to put around, as once they are placed, they will die and just look like dead pieces of grass. And while I'm investigating the build, I actually just saw some iron going down, which means the iron farm has been running, and oh my god, that is actually an insane amount of iron. This thing hasn't really been running at all. Like, I've been in this area a lot, but that is so much iron. Well, anyways, I want to start putting some pale oak leaves in these spots where there's like cracks in the wall. I can just add maybe a couple more in there. And then what I can also do is add some pale hanging moss just to give it a little bit of life that's not life. Yep, exactly. Life that's not life. I'm sure you get the point. I maybe went a little overboard with some of the detailing, even adding in a few more extra trees, but I did put in a lot of the coral and even some of the pale oak saplings. For a build like this, the pale hanging moss is a perfect block to put in, and I honestly might put even more in at some point, and I should not need iron for quite a while. I'll definitely figure out the auto sorting system at some point. Maybe somebody in the Discord can help me because I am awful at redstone. With the extra foliage added around, I figured I would show off some of the build now that it is complete, as this has quickly turned into one of my favorite builds. Okay, I lied. There's one more thing I want to add. I want to add a small statue here using some blackstone. This will be pretty much exactly the same statue I made over in the White Castle, except this one, I want to make it just slightly different. And he had a small head. There we go. I just have to give this guy a sword and then an iron bar here to make it look like maybe the sword handle, as if this kind of thing fell down. It's kind of supposed to be symbolic. It's supposed to look like the statue up there, just a smaller version. But it's supposed to look like it is kind of dead, as if maybe the evil in this area has been removed. So the statue is kind of fallen over and destroyed. Very similar to the scene in the Lord of the Rings movie where it kind of showed the crown over the fallen statue. Kind of reminded me of that, if you guys know what the scene I'm talking about. But we have kind of the fallen king right here, the evil king. But there is actually something I have an idea, and I want to test it out. I have a coral fan that I don't want to put right there. I have a coral fan that I want to put on his head to make it look like he has a crown. I think that looks pretty good, actually. And I think it's a nice little touch over here as if maybe there used to be like an evil shrine and it just got knocked over. Some people are still putting their candles in here, but the flowers are kind of made to look like, you know, the actual good in this world is kind of overtaking the evil. Yeah, I know my videos are extremely deep, very, very poetic, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, it took so long to make, and definitely leave a like and give your guys' opinions on this build. I think it's probably my favorite, and I'll see you guys in the next one.